We spent a lot of time yesterday talking about Karine Jean-Pierre. You remember her. She was the person who was paid with your tax dollars to lie to you about Joe Biden. Well, her predecessor, Jen Psaki, she apparently got a little jealous that KJP was getting so much attention. So the OG Biden liar, she sat for a podcast and she said something a little curious about the vice president and his wife.
The little Manchurian candidate, JD Vance, wants to be president more than anything else.
Yeah.
I always wonder what's going on in the mind of his wife. Like, are you
Agreed.
okay? Please blink 4 times.
Yes.
We'll come over here. We'll save you. And that he's willing to do anything to get there. And that your whole iteration you just outlined, I mean, he's scarier in certain ways.
He's smarter
in some ways. And he's young.
Yeah. And ambitious.
And ambitious. And agile in the sense that he is a chameleon who makes himself into whatever he thinks the audience wants to hear from him. Now, what's also true, though, is JD Vance is not, he's in some ways goodish on paper if you like what he believes in. I don't know. But I don't know that he can take the whole movement with him.
No way.
I don't think so either.
There's no riz.
It's got no riz, right?
None.
And he just is a little odd. And
Totally.
so Trump's odd in a different way. So I'm skeptical of that. So yeah, he's got to. I mean, everything going on right now, and I think we have to be very clear-eyed about this, is about trying to manipulate the public around elections.
Okay, fine. All right, let's break this down, and we're going to go backwards in time on this one. First of all, I got to tell you, the whole narrative that J.D. Vance is actually scarier than Donald Trump, we knew it was coming. We knew it was coming. They tried this out when they thought Trump was done, and maybe DeSantis was going to be the heir apparent there back to the early part of the Biden administration, and they were trying to convince you that DeSantis is actually a lot scarier than Trump. Whoever it is, I promise you, they're a lot scarier than Trump. The next Republican is always a lot scarier than the last one. I remember when John McCain was super scary, scarier than Bush. And Mitt Romney, oh, you think McCain was scary. Romney is he's scarier than all of them combined. It's what they do, and it's boring, and it's tired, and it doesn't work, okay? So there's that. Also, again, I just want to point this out. I said it the other day. I don't know why this podcast is suddenly the flavor of the month for the libs. They do this all day, but this is the one. It's I've had it. Look at the logo. Is there anything more attractive and appealing to the American people than a white woman of a certain age with liberal political views sitting with her arms crossed, looking at you saying, I've had it? Yeah, sign me up for that, baby. Sign me up for that one. That's the conversation I want to participate in. But take a listen to the tail end of this, and then we'll go to the things she said at the beginning.
And he's young.
Yeah. And ambitious.
And agile in the sense that he is a chameleon who makes himself into whatever he thinks the audience wants to hear from him. Now, what's also true, though, is JD Vance is not, he's in some ways goodish on paper if you like what he believes in. I don't know. But I don't know that he can take the whole movement with him.
No way.
I don't think so either.
I mean, let's face it. When have these women or women like them ever been wrong about the MAGA movement, about Donald Trump and his voters? I mean, when have they ever misjudged you? When have they ever failed to really get you and understand what motivates you and what you're all about? So the level of confidence, the lack of humility or curiosity here is so arrogant and close-minded and stubborn. Just think about this for a minute. 10 years of vilifying Donald Trump, turning into Hitler, fascist, Stalin, Nazi, Klansman, criminal, felon, sexual predator, all the things that they've done. And he still won the election. Now you've got the potential for a candidate who, as she just put it, on paper, basically affirms the president's agenda and policies. After all, he was the hand-picked running mate and is now the vice president, probably one of the most effective vice presidents we've seen in our lifetimes in participating with the president and articulating and working for his agenda. As Jen Psaki just conceded, on paper, he's got all of those things. But she says they all agree there's no way he can take the movement with him. Well, hold on a minute. So you're saying he represents all of Trump's issues and the agenda, and he's actually, by the time he runs, will have done 4 years of actually employing the agenda and effectuating the agenda. And, oh, by the way, he doesn't have all of the baggage that you've heaped on Trump. He doesn't do the angry Kafifi tweets. He isn't a convicted felon. He doesn't have, he isn't called Hitler. Well, they'll call him Hitler by the time it's done. But you know what I'm saying? It's like he is literally Trump without all of the Trump stuff that they've heaped on Trump, but they're confident that there's no way he can carry the entire movement. They're just, why does anyone take them seriously? None of it makes any logical sense. And again, if you're trying to figure out the Republican Trump supporting phenomenon, maybe you shouldn't keep going back to the people who have been consistently wrong about you and about that group for the last 10 years. Which brings us to the beginning part of this podcast. Did you catch what she said about the second lady?
I think the little Manchurian candidate, JD Vance, wants to be president more than anything else.
Yeah.
I always wonder what's going on in the mind of his wife. Like,
Agree.
Are you okay? Please blink 4 times.
Yes.
We'll come over here. We'll save you.
First of all, before I forget, this whole idea that it's a criticism of JD Vance, the vice president of the United States, because he really wants to be president. Every elected official in America wants to be president. Half of the people who ran for office who didn't win want to be president. And certainly, I'm sorry, has there ever been a vice president who didn't want to be president? Other than Dick Cheney, who frankly had a lot of the presidential powers without having to run for president. It's just a stupid, imbecilic comment to make. But then she turns on the wife. Oh, boy. They should rename this the Mean Girls podcast. There's nothing more vicious than a liberal woman going after another woman who doesn't do what they demand she do. How dare Usha Vance marry a man like that?
Wants to be president more than anything else.
Yeah.
I always wonder what's going on in the mind of his wife. Like,
Agree.
Are you okay? Please blink 4 times.
Yes.
We'll come over here. We'll save you.
Just disgusting and despicable. And I just want to point out for a second. Listen, I get it. Politics is a big boy and big girl sport. And I know that, the rules are you do what you got to do to win and to advance your idea and advance your party and advance your agenda, advance your candidate, whatever. And I know that when Usha Vance, as the wife of the vice president, decided that she was going to, put herself out there with her family and participate in the campaign, that, yeah, she was going to be a target and they were going to criticize her. Of course, obviously, I get it. But here's the thing about Usha Vance. If you've been watching her for the last year and a half, really, since she's been in the public eye, yeah, she does campaign appearances. She doesn't give speeches. She doesn't speak at rallies. She's by her husband's side. She's with her children. And now that they've won the election, she does her job as the second lady. She raises her kids. She's not really a big-time political player. She hasn't injected herself into the political conversation. She doesn't have a political agenda, as it were, other than to be her husband's wife and the mother of her husband's children. Maybe that's what they find so objectionable about her. I don't know. Maybe they're inferring onto her some level of political positions that they think she has that are contrary to her husband's. And that's why they're saying, do you need us to come rescue you? Which is insulting and disgusting. What kind of political figure is Usha Vance? Well, we searched in vain to find some kind of political speech or political rally that she participated in. She spoke at the RNC. She introduced her husband. This is a good example of the kind of politics that Usha Vance has engaged in.
I grew up in San Diego, in a middle-class community. with 2 loving parents, both immigrants from India, and a wonderful sister. That JD and I could meet at all, let alone fall in love and marry, is a testament to this great country.
Well, this is why they hate her. Yeah, her entire speech is like 5-10 minutes long, was just talking about herself and her husband and how they met and what kind of man he is. And speaking of his character, nothing about policies, nothing about positions, nothing about legislation, nothing about any of it. That was it. And they hate her. And now they're using her as some sort of despicable political weapon to attack her husband and drive a wedge between the two of them, and to publicly shame her for being a loving husband or loving wife to JD Vance. Is there anything more disgusting than that? And by the way, Usha Vance's performance in the campaign as the wife of the running mate, I think it's appropriate to hold up what you just saw from Usha Vance and compare it to the woman the Democrats put forth as the wife of the candidate for vice president. Remember this piece of work? Gwen Walls, unlike what you just saw from Usha Vance, the personification of class and dignity. Here's Gwen Walls.
But I kind of liked it when she did this. Turn the page. You like that? Okay, so I need you to be with me and practice with me. What are we going to do? We're going to turn the page. Oh, pretty good. Do it again. We're going to turn the page. And we're going to turn the page. All right, so I'm going to be watching you, because when I see Wisconsin, and I'm watching nationally on TV, because this is a pretty important place, and Minnesota helped you practice with this, you just show me this. Turn the page, right? Turn the page. And you know what else that looks like? Bye-bye. Bye-bye, Donald Trump. We are turning the page. 52 days and we are turning the page. 52 days and it is bye-bye, Donald Trump.
Yeah, so we got Usha Vance as the second lady. And they hate her. They wanted to give us Gwen Walls, and they love her. I just want to make sure you caught all of that. We've got to zoom in on the woman the Democrats wanted to be the second lady.
Bye-bye, Donald Trump. We are turning the page. 52 days and we are turning the page. 52 days and it is bye-bye, Donald Trump.
Yeah. See, they love her. Their problem is with the normal people in this country. This is who they love. This is the kind of woman that measures up to the Jen Psakis and the I've had it crowd on MSNBC.
That's almost unwatchable.
I'm so sorry to do this to you. We needed to hammer home the point, Kevin. Are you going to be okay? Do we need to say a rosary to just cleanse?
I need group therapy.
Maybe just a decade. All right. I'll move on then, and we'll pivot back over to Jen Psaki and give you some of the highlights of her career, because see, her problem is with the Usha Vances of the world, and I think I know why. Because if you remember right, MSNBC refused to call the election in the wee hours of the morning when everybody else did. They were still the bitter clingers. They were hanging on. They had their nails dug into the side of the chair that they were sitting in. They were like the Japanese, World War II soldiers in a cave in Iwo Jima, thinking that the emperor was still alive and the fight was still going on, right? And it wasn't until about 5:36 in the morning the next day on Wednesday that they finally called the race. And guess who had to do it? That's right. Peppermint Patty.
Still a long way for her to go, but they
Steve Kornacki, I just have to jump in. And you've been predicting this. We've been waiting for it. And we do have some breaking news from the decision desk. NBC News can now project that Donald Trump has won the state of Wisconsin, which means he is the winner of this race and will return to the White House as this country's 47th president. And for so many of you watching right now, that news is, to say the least, a lot to digest. I understand that personally. After he lost 4 years ago, he refused to accept the outcome and incited a violent insurrection on our nation's capital. He's campaigned while facing criminal indictments related to his efforts to overturn the 2020 results, and he's run as a convicted felon. During this campaign, he has also promised to essentially be an authoritarian leader, to use power like no American president ever has before, and wield that power to go after his political enemies. This is a man who's also bragged about overturning Roe v. Wade and stripping away women's bodily autonomy. He's promised to conduct mass deportations to crack down on the rights of millions of Americans.
That's right.
Donald Trump is an anti-democratic force, but he's just been elected democratically in our country. And here's what might be the hardest part to hear, but we have to talk about and we have to say, and it is a hard part to digest for all of us. But we have to be honest about what we saw in this election. Donald Trump was elected by expanding his support over a number of key groups that we've been digging into this night, all night tonight, as we anticipated where this was headed. And I know we're going to dig into it throughout the course of the day today. And there will be a lot of time spent on how and why he won and what this will mean for the country over the next 4 years and beyond.
Oh, God, I just can't get enough of that. And hearing the tone in her voice, she's never going to get over that traumatic moment. The fact that it was Jen Psaki who drew the short stick there on MSNBC and had to make the announcement. And there's something about the fact that as she's going through the long litany, the list of all the horrible things that Donald Trump has done and will do and promised to do and campaigned on, that this was the image that the viewers at MSNBC had to stare at. Trump with that big eating grin on his face, saying, "That's right. That's right, Jen. I'm coming for you. You bet your ass I'm coming for you." Oh, that's great. And as glorious it is for us to watch Jen Psaki have to struggle with that kind of emotional, mental trauma, it really did have an effect on her. But there's good news for Jen Psaki. Part of the podcast here was talking about the vision now that they have over there in their little clubhouse, because the MSNBC to MS Now rebrand is about to happen. And she gave us a little preview of what MS Now is going to be all about. Do you want to hear? I know I do, because let's face it, the crap that happens on MS Now is going to be a big part of our programming going forward. So, what do you got in store for us, Jan?
Really excited about the reporters who are coming to MS Now, who are already with us. I mean, people who Carol and Ken have broken, I don't know, it feels like a story every day.
Yes.
And they're part of what we're going to be doing. And a lot of what we do is storytell and not bullshit and just tell people what's happening. And that's exciting to be a part of and to be our own world of it. Let's not debate the sky's blue. The sky's blue, right? And I don't think we have to have another side of, was it the pros and cons of Letitia James being indicted, right? There are no pros.
There are no pros.
There are many cons. Here are all the things with it. That is one of the things I so appreciate.
Okay, so a couple of things. I don't know if you picked up on all that, but now that we're going to be MS Now and not MSNBC, we don't have to be as fair and balanced as we've been up until now. That's what she's saying. And did you catch the whole, we can do a whole lot of storytelling instead of bullshit? In other words, up until now, pretty much what we do at MSNBC is bullshit. This is a beautiful thing to behold. It's going to be so good. It's going to be like Blue Sky, 24/7 streaming of Blue Sky, adapted into video storytelling. Gorgeous. Which, by the way, let's just take a quick gander over at MSNBC, because as she just put it, we don't have to worry about the pros and cons of a story anymore. We can just tell it like it is. We don't have to worry about being fair and balanced. Okay, let's take a quick look here. Yesterday, how fair and balanced they were. This is MSNBC reporting that the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals upheld the president, the executive office's ability to direct the National Guard, because the executive branch is, in fact, the president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. We all knew this was going to happen. This has to do with deploying the National Guard in Portland, Oregon. So here's their legal analyst there, and let's take a look at how they bend over backwards to make sure that they report a story like this in a very fair, balanced, antiseptic, kind of just nothing but the facts kind of fashion. Come on, you journalists, let's go.
It is a big deal, and I want to just correct one thing and then explain why functionally it is the same. This is a stay of Judge Immergut's opinion, and that's why it reached the Ninth Circuit as soon as it did, because this is an emergency motion to essentially pause her order. But as a functional matter, you are absolutely correct. It has the function of overturning her order and thereby allowing the president to send the National Guard back onto the streets of Portland. And Katie, I want to read, if I can, just from a little bit of the beginning of this 93-page opinion. It says, after considering the record, and by the record they mean all the factual evidence at this preliminary stage, we conclude that it is likely that the president lawfully exercised his statutory authority under 10 U.S.C. Section 12406. That's the statute we've been referring to as Title 10 when we have conversations about the National Guard deployments, which authorizes the federalization of the National Guard when the president is unable with the regular forces to execute the laws of the United States. And this is the important part. The evidence the president relied on reflects, quote, a colorable assessment of the facts and law within a range of honest judgment. We thus conclude that defendants are likely to succeed on the merits of their appeal, basically saying that when and if a court considers all of the record in this matter is tried and it gets back to an appellate court through an ordinary process where they have full briefing and full evidence, that they still think Donald Trump is likely to prevail there because he has the discretion to determine as the president within a range of honest judgment when it is reasonable to deploy the Guard.
You and I were talking about last week. When you get into the slippery slope.
Yeah, slippery slope. Did you notice how she was on the verge of tears? Did you notice how emotionally pitched her voice was? How breathless she was with anxiety and emotion over the law? Over judges coming down on the side of the law. That's the fair and balanced, sort of even-handed approach that MSNBC now takes. The same network that brings you Jen Psaki and Michael Steele, and until recently had Joy Reid and Rachel Maddow and Chris Hayes and Lawrence O'Donnell and Joe and Mika and Reverend Al Sharpton and all the rest. They don't have to be as fair and balanced anymore now that they're going to be MS Now. They're Jen Psaki's network now, and yeah, they're going to do whatever they can to attack Usha Vance because they're all about the storytelling.